Careful now, squire. Villein issued himself a warning under his frutella breath, leading them all into the infinite memory immemorial, the past and present. It's as dangerous as it is beautiful. He checked himself with a slow, painless thump to his own head and said, with a tongue tasting of gauziness or street ammonia dolled up as coke, "Beautiful." He ceased with the public thinking as two people had already got up and moved away from the little enclave at the back of the multi-story bookstore's fiction and stationery floor. Perhaps would that word not better be trusted, twisted, or comical to describe what 'em all were after? Not beautiful, though. That was a word Villein was interrupted by. He leads us through the endless distortions and refractions of his own devising. There he sat, after all the years of grafting and shafting the system, and being shafted by it, hustling and chasing foreign birds. There he sat, so still and devoid of any interest in moving himself any time soon. Astride a bright red designer reading chair, he bent, hunched forward, ever so slightly beginning to perspire. As the radiator cooked up the room, cleverly, not really seeming to do much with the winter cold that crept through the walls and the window cracks, but suddenly being the centre of the action as the house very much instantly became burning hot. Villein sat in his room downstairs. Scylla lay in bed next door to Villein, separated by a bathroom or two, as Villein's room was annexed by his own private WC and tub, etc. Seems wrong to write bathroom again, so close to the first. Excused in explanation. Upstairs, the monster and his girlfriend lay sprawled all about the show, like lizards plonked on Mediterranean rocks, unblinking with the television DVD machine, their son. A few of the couple's friends stayed with them in the large open space that includes a double bed, a kitchen, American-style with brekkie bar and wide cupboards, cups on hooks, cookers designed for the space age. You get the idea. I hope to God I can convey so simple a vision of a modern upstairs with a gang of junkies flat out in front of the bloody telly. Villein, piping himself insane. Villein continued apace with the stagnation, his body motionless in ripped jeans and soft skin warming to the radiator's advances. He wanted the junkies out like he thought they'd already be by now. A junkie himself, our hero was sick of the pipey politics and paranoia that propped up all conversations or so, to say nothing of the constant guarding of his stuff and druggy nonsense. The time for his next bout of prolonged solitude was nigh. This was his conclusion after a good early morning of being blank astride the designer red chair. He could not remember whether it was his wished-for world, just world, of faded denims, grandeur and squalor, gutters full of rain, bedrooms hung with tattered flea market finery, sighing nymphs. Did it matter? An amount of crack cocaine had gone missing from his work desk this night past. What bastard had done that? He leant back a while and sucked on a pipe. Something occurred. A tremendous excitement of all things. An intense metaphysical illumination. His brain was sufficiently smashed up to be left vacant of the enthusiasm or belief, but when a likeness to sobriety or clarity returned, he was left staring vacantly at a few disjointed words and phrases. Then he remembered the deeper absorption of drugs, brown and white. He was fixing up now, 5-6 times a day. Physical and mental well-being, inner contentment, indefinable joy, intimate joy, all these things Villein seeks, but in vain to understand or analyze. Sweet, smoky lungsfuls of gritless, smooth, pearly clouds are cool, and crikey O'Reilly says la beat, la moho, yeah, total in it. Common trade among the lengthy, so vast lineup of Bangladeshi boys in Stepney, Whitechapel and Cannon Street, in their smart clothes, Nike and Reebok, Moschino, FC UK, standard rude boy, Sunday best with not tucking the scully flaps into the socks. Villein fingered a droplet of sweat off from above his right eye. This left hand ached and ached from the times of late he'd had a wee jab of the good stuff into his hand. Some rare brand of regret accompanied the pain of its bursts and spasms. Curses and terse grimaces and face-ache styly faces went with it also. Though some days later, after a tough and coldly oil-sung shambles ran full of his life road trip, with a pipeless rotation taking turn at the wheel all about the south of England, in the morning he looked upon his writing thus far and battled in vain against a stirring nausea in his very being, and allowed him an extremely narrow way of seeing the world, i.e., with the quivering, shivering, paranoid shyness and reticence, reluctance to face himself and sort himself out when, entrenched in this particular position of social impotence and dreadful squalor of the soul. "Serves you right, you're a mug," Villein addressed himself in the full-length mirror. "Get a life." "Oh, but I'm sure I had one, or I thought I did. Think I did. I'm sure. Serves you right, it would fuck yourself, wrench yourself unfree, in the perfect position to preserve some sense of treason to death-bound soul, avidly pursuing the drag act of plain pain, the same dishevelled, grubby routine of anxious, breathless, cracked-up, flogging the soul to within an inch of its complex persecution-needy nonsense, and then a grand hollow season of numb knout to celebrate. All create about. That selfish, sordid, sadistic tish of pish stained for a night of grime, a sight to fright a mother, and alienate a brother, sent innocents running for the under the covers and drawing out the all too warped and wicked from their holes to gather strength from the combined energies of lust for darkening of the dusk, and their pitch-witch temper black, bleak, rather, and any word that'll rip through you and send you spinning and grinning, evil for mercy. Strings we can't see, not yet visible for all it matters, when we are locked into death's embrace. My mother reckoning, on the darkness my solitude, my obsession with those obsessed with me. The deranged, the dainty, the desperate, the damned, the doleful, the dirty, the quick and the dead. None so hot and cold, no self-control, lonely soul, the looping of the bylow at fear in my dear night. Sweet, smoky lungs full of gritless, smooth, pearly clouds are cool, and crikey O'Reilly, sella peep moho, yeah, total in it. Right in my heart. All that's left is the memory of the blanks, wide open worlds, apart from the dry, safe den under thick branches that was our enclave. Alone and rotten, sat thinking and forgotten, thinking of the last, forging out a past for the fucked up forever. Hope elopes with the light, and no, I'm not all right. My mother's eyes scare me tonight. Jing and Villein in the jam jar on Albany Road. "Gore, it's pretty bleak round here, darling," says Villein. Jing does not seem to understand as she thinks to herself. He glances across the passenger seat. "What did you write?" "It's secret," says Jing. Villein looks a little miffed, albeit in a jestful manner. Jing does not divine the play acting. Oh, it's up to you, he says, clearing the air somewhat. Then, go on, translate for me, would you, and be a sweetheart? It's my dream. If you tell it to someone, it won't come true. Oh, okay, fair dues. Well, here we are, Camberwell Green. Adieu, Jing. But tarry. I'm invited to tarry. Villein was thinking as a stinking old morning sang out. What's the use between death and glory? How would you tell between death and glory? Happy endings never bored me. Happy endings, they still don't bore me, but they have a way to make you pay and to make you toe the line. I sever my ties. Oh, I'm so clever and just 25. I say, fuck forever. If you don't mind, fuck forever. I'm stuck forever. I'm stuck in your mind. Purgatory. Happy families. That can't do. Just explain to you the very purest reason for my failure as a man. My sorry, shallow statue pose in the thick sand about my weak knees. My hated fiends. Some sat in desperate loss of another day's evasive action by elevator piss shafts and street stars, showed by liars. Namely, first to have done with, this not one of us. Rallying in odd awe at the awful sense we had and the awkward, arsey artists. At this late hour, is it still possible to conceive of other worlds?